Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third ever episode of the Flutter Brigade Roundtable. I am your host, F89, and joining me again, as always, is my co-hosts, Ed.
Hey, great to be back for another edition of the show, everybody.
And my other co-host, Mond.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Okay, guys, so as you already know, and as anyone who's listening already know, we are now being broadcast on Alicorn Radio because we got a position there, which is awesome, and we are truly thankful for Alicorn Radio and giving us the chance to do our podcast here. Okay, so today's topic is going to be the Brony fandom as a whole, but before we get into that, I want to talk about the latest episode, which is Mod Pie. Guys, what is your thoughts about the episode?
You can go first, Ed.
All right. Yeah, I really liked the episode. I've been looking forward to Mod Pie for a long time since we found out about a month ago that it was going to be a thing. And, ever since season 1 with Cutie Mark Chronicles, when we saw the flashback with how Pinky got her cutie mark and we saw her family, like on the rock farm. And, I've always wanted to know about what her family was like or what her sisters were like if they would ever appear in the show one day. Aside, we never really got that. I mean, 2 seasons going on, season 2, season 3, it didn't happen. Now he's beginning to wonder if it ever would. And then something curious happened in season 4. In Pinky Pride, while everybody was obviously fixated on Weird Al and the whole shenanigans going on in that episode, during one song, Pinky's Lament, where she's just going on about everything that's going on, how she can't compete with Cheese Sandwich and all that. There's a scene where she's reflecting all the past parties she's thrown. And there's a photo of her family, and it showed her parents, and then instead of 2 sisters, 3 sisters. And so we all learned that either some kind of retconning or whatever, that suddenly a 3rd sister appeared. And that 3rd sister would later turn out to be Mod Pie, who appeared in the latest episode. I really love this episode for multiple reasons. First, I gotta say, Ingrid Nielsen, the VA for Mod Pie, you did an excellent job. I absolutely love her voice. I found it really amusing and just, even though it's just, deadpan and just emotionless, I found it really easy going on the ears. And I just thought it was so appropriate for the character. She just fit the character with that voice perfectly. And just seeing, juxtaposed with Pinkie Pie by her side, how they were polar opposites in personality was hilarious. And I really liked how, at first the main six all kind of almost ganged up on her and tried over a side. And later they thought, maybe we should try one-on-one trying to get to know her and spending time with her. Maybe she was overwhelmed and whatnot. And the various activities that each of the main six do trying to get to know Maud, but to no avail. They can't connect whatsoever. I mean, I found them hilarious. Especially the scenes, for example, when they were looking for the rock, that hide and seek game that they were playing or whatever. And it's I can't find out. Which rock is which rock is Boulder? I can't find it. And she's like at the end, oh, he was in my pocket the whole time. Just what? And then the one scene, when she throws the rock when she's spending time in Rainbow Dash, just nonchalantly, and it causes that big explosion in the wave and everything. And it's Rainbow Dash is I guess you win this one, Maud. And she's like, I don't really care about winning. And Rainbow's like, what? And none of them can get along with her, and they're afraid to tell Pinky. When they finally do, Pinky's obviously hurt. But then she comes up with this crazy idea with the whole obstacle course thing, which I thought was brilliant. I love that. But I never saw coming the part where she got stuck on that pile of rocks there, and that big boulder came rolling down, and all of a sudden she was in mortal danger. And out of nowhere, Maud just goes all badass on everybody and just destroys that rock like it's nothing. I mean, she basically just used rock smash and destroyed the thing, and then she's just so awesome in that one scene, and then she's back to her normal self afterwards, like nothing had happened. So I mean, all the interactions between Maud and the main six, and her being a polar opposite to Pinkie Pie, and all those hilarious scenes in the episode, I just loved it. I thought it was funny. There was some heartwarming scenes. In the end, we find out Maud really does care for Pinky. She's not as obvious in her demeanor. And the end lesson, I mean, there are 2 things little nitpicks here that kept it from being a perfect score episode for me. And they're little nitpicks. One, unfortunately, I was hoping for this, but we didn't get to see Pinkie Pie's other sisters or her parents. I would have liked to have seen them or at least had a flashback scene with them, and we didn't get that, unfortunately. And two, I thought the lesson could have been a little bit better. Like, the lesson could have been, you can't be friends with everybody, and that's okay, and that's acceptable. But, I mean, and they kind of did that, but, they had the connect, but they made it like they can still be friends because of their connection to Pinkie Pie because they all love her equally. I found that that was heartwarming and all, but I found it a little bit cliched in the sense that that's not really a reason you can be friends with somebody. It's more that you're connected to somebody because they know a person or they're friends with them or family, but that doesn't mean you're friends with that other person. So I felt that was kind of off there. It was a missed opportunity. Aside from that one missed opportunity there, I honestly think that it was a great episode, and I gave it an 8.7 out of 10, and it's one of my new favorites of season 4. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Mod Pie.
All right. I have to disagree with you, Ed, on the one part about the lesson. And if anyone wants to go check it out, I have a more full review on the Alicorn Radio main web page. So if you want to check that out, you can go there. But anyways, basically, what I thought about the lesson was that it was actually really good, and it was two-parted. Like you said, Ed, we have the fact that one, they learned that you can't always be friends with everybody. You have to learn who you can be connected to and who you can't, who won't click with you, but also that like you can sort of connect with someone just based on, your mutual love for another person, or your mutual affection for another person. And I thought that was actually a good lesson because the first part of it actually made a lot of, I thought it was just as mature as the It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's lesson was, which, it's something that actually adults could take from. But I thought the second part also made sense because, and I might be biased because, I have a decent amount of friends and stuff, and I've met people that I only really knew through, just knowing someone else. I've met people through my best friend who I'm friends with now, and, you're sort of I think how the episode made it out, that you bond because of that other person, that might be a little bit misdirected. I think you might have a point there, Ed. But, I think that, sort of the feeling that they were giving off, that you can bond because of that person, that made sense. I don't know. I guess that made sense. But other parts about the episode that I liked were, like you said, Ed, the deadpan sort of demeanor of Maud, because she definitely seemed like she definitely fit what I thought one of Pinkie's sisters would be like. I mean, yeah, they were partying in that one part, the flashback part for Pinkie in the Cutie Mark Chronicle, but I thought that, otherwise, their normal demeanor is sort of, stoic, sort of very, hearty, always serious business type rock farmer people, whatever, people of the land, we're always serious, or something like that. But I don't know. I thought that actually fit well, and the rock poetry part was great. I thought it fit pretty well, and it sort of had that feeling of if how there's the whole stereotype of emo or goth poetry, that kind of fit. So I'm oh god, they're stereotyping her as Raven from Teen Titans or a goth character, but I thought that worked. And like you said, Ed, the part with Pinkie Pie, Pinkie Pie's whole contraption, I thought that I was what the hell, Pinkie? Why are you making a death trap? It was well intentioned. I get that, but I was Pinkie Pie, why you do this? That's not good. like when I first saw the thing, I was just like, oh god, she's gonna get stuck in it. But I thought, yeah, overall the episode was heartwarming, and the only flaw I found with it was that they could have cut the beginning part out, honestly, because it just felt like, oh, we're setting up the episode, we're, you know, sort of making all the exposition very clear and very clean cut, and, you know, we're trying to show that the other main six besides Pinky aren't exactly all that enthused about it. You know, it kind of sets up the tone, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just, it isn't my preference. But oddly enough, I gave it a higher rating than you did. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I can agree with what you guys said for the most part. As for me, I don't really have a lot to say about the episode, because even though I've seen it like 3 times now, I'm still not sure what to make of it, so I haven't even given it a rating yet. So, one thing I could say, I guess, that I liked was, well, something you already covered. Like, I thought the rock poetry was pretty funny, and I thought Maud, like, she did seem like a very almost gothic character. So, I could see where you guys are coming from, but as for me, I still need to do another, like, watch of it and give it a final rating. But anyways, let's get into our main topic here, which is the Brony fandom in general. And the first question I want to ask is, what made you guys want to become a Brony in the first place?
Well, to keep it short, let's just say this. Back when I was in, back in college, saying that like I'm not in college anymore, but anyway, back when I was a junior in college, I was sort of always, I don't know, I guess I was in a bad place back then. I had all these like romantic problems going on and all this other shit going on. But like, I don't know. I guess what happened was, well, I can tell you for sure what happened. My best friend, whose name is Chris, he showed me he told me like one day when we were hanging out, oh god, dude, like I'm kind of afraid for myself. And I'm like, why? I'm like, what did you do? And he's like, I started watching this one show. It's called, it's My Little Pony. And I'm like, okay, yeah, go on. And he's like, I don't know. It's like, you would think like, oh, it's so girly and everything. And I'm like, I don't care. You're my best friend. If you watch it, it's fine. He's like, no, you don't understand. It's really good. Like, there's a lot of people watching it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I've seen things online on like meme base and stuff about it, and I just never knew what it was about. And then he said, well, you should check it out. And long story short, I did. And I kind of knew going in, I was going to be like, this probably will end up being something I'm going to get obsessed with. Oddly enough, like, most people don't believe me when I say that, but oddly enough, I did go in thinking that. And sure enough, when I watched the first episode, I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit girl. It seemed a sad bit girly, but I'm like, this is actually really good. And basically, from there on in, I just became part of the fandom.
Yeah. I'll explain my story in a minute. Ed, what about you?
I gotta really summarize mine because it's fairly long, but I will include the most important parts. My story is fairly personal, in that sense that, I didn't know anything about the My Little Pony franchise at all, except that it used to annoy me a hell of a lot as a kid. Whenever the commercials came up when I was trying to watch my favorite cartoons back in the 90s or whatever, I'm trying to watch it, and it goes to commercial break, and then, like, there's one commercial. It's like one commercial is like Transformers, explosions, manly, and then the next commercial is like My Little Pony. Oh, hey, Christina, can I play with a pink pony too? It's like, God, just get rid of the stupid commercial already. And I hated them as a child, and I wanted to just And then like if you would have went back in time and come to myself at my age of like 9 or 10 years old, I was like, you know what? You know what the funny ironic thing is? When you're an older kid, you're going to be a huge fan of a future in that show, and I would have probably just looked at you and like, I don't know. But Anyway, so like going on to like about 2 years ago, a year and a half or so, back in summer of 2012, about May or June or whatever, I was going around on YouTube, like back when I was still making videos on YouTube, and I was looking for like YouTube poofs and other parodies because I was a huge fan of those back then, and they were hilarious. And one day I was scrolling along and I saw the usual suspects for YouTube poof, the CDI characters, SpongeBob, other things, and all of a sudden I see one random like pony character, and like, what the hell is this? And it's like Fluttershy says inappropriate things for 4 minutes. Who the hell's Fluttershy, and why are they making YouTube poof about this? I was curious. I clicked the dang video, and it was hilarious. Like I see this pony that looked really girly or whatever, and she's like making all these weird noises and stuff. Like Legend of Zelda Death Scream, and next minute she's like, pills here, and all that stuff for 4 minutes. And I thought it was hilarious, but then I didn't think much else of it. And then, like, throughout the next couple of weeks, I would see around like different places, like music for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, or a picture, my MOP, FIM, and then all of a sudden there's all these people talking about it. It's like, what the hell are these people smoking? Well, this is My Little Pony. Why are so many people getting into this? I didn't think much of it. And then eventually I looked it up and I found out there was a fan base called Bronies, and they were really into this MOP thing. I was like, are you kidding me? What is this? And I the next thing is I was like really interested. I was really curious. So I looked up the show, and then I went on Netflix, and it was on there, and they had the first 2 seasons, and I started chronologically from the beginning. And I watched Friendship is Magic Parts 1 and 2. And I was like, that's better than I thought. The animation was nice, and they had a fairly dark villain for what's supposed to be a little girl's show. And so I was like, let's see a little bit more, And so I watched Ticketmaster. Then I watched Applebuck season. Then I watched Griffin the Brush Off. Ghostbusters, and on and on. And eventually I realized, what? I'm actually getting hooked on this. I don't know why. I can't explain why, but this is really good. And I think I've become one of these so-called brony things or whatever. So I was like, okay. I go on YouTube and make a 6-part video about it because I was so overly excited that was totally unnecessary, but I made 6 parts about why I was a brony and what I liked about the characters and all. And I was like, oh, this Rainbow Dash is the best pony. She's awesome. And it's like, she reminds me of Sonic, and I'm a huge Sonic fan. It's like, wait a minute, who's this purple mare? She's pretty awesome too. She reminds me of Harry Potter. She can do magic, and she's I like her design. She's cute, but she's also cool. And she's got a pet dragon, or like an assistant dragon, which is interesting, I guess. And she's like a princess's like acolyte or whatever. So I'm like, this is interesting. And so Twilight became my favorite pony, and like about a week or so later, I was like, oh, I'm really into this pony thing now. Let me see if I can interact with it somehow. It's like, I got some video games. What games could I possibly like make a pony mod or whatever? And then or where I can meet a brony online. I tried Call of Duty first. Nothing worked. Call of Duty was whatever. Then I gave up and said, well, Mod Nation Racer is the only other game I've got, so I'll do that. And sure enough, I met some bronies there. They had some pony mods, and but they all kind of just like either ignored me or didn't notice me because they were in their own clans or whatever. I was about to give up. I did like a 5-hour thing one night, like various characters or mods and whatever. And then at one point, like this comes in with a Fluttershy mod. I'm like, oh my god, it's a real live brony! Oh my god, it's like, please don't go. And it's like, I changed the Twilight Sparkle mod. We race. He stays around for a couple races. Then he asked me, like, hey, what's your name and whatever. And, like, we started talking. And then, long story short on that, like, he invited me to this. He's the first brony who would actually acknowledge and talk to me. And he brought me over to this one group. And to make a long story short, I was in this group for almost 2 years. Met a lot of other awesome people there. And over time, over the months, I bought a lot of pony merch. I got more and more into the show, bought the comics, merch, and it even culminated in last year when I went to my first convention ever, when I went to BronyCon. And I'm still here almost 2 years later, still loving the show. We're almost done with season 4. I've got all the seasons on DVD. I've got like almost 10 shirts and comic books. I get them every month. And the one guy that got me into this whole thing, actually, I probably would have dropped out of this if I hadn't many friends or whatever, but the one guy that ensured that I would stick around and drew me into this was none other than our host of this show, Fluttershy89, or Flutters as we know him. So I have that personal connection here. That's the story pretty much.
Wow. totally for no, I'm just kidding. I didn't forget that, but like introducing you to the fandom was probably by far the biggest mistake of my life ever. I instantly regret ever doing that. No, I'm just kidding. As for my story, well, my story is probably going to be the most epic. I mean, it's so epic that I literally had to make a movie about it. But technically, I shouldn't even be a brony right now. It just sort of happened, and I'll explain briefly why. Growing up as a kid, I had three younger sisters, and like seeing the older generation of My Little Pony was inevitable. I had to watch it. I absolutely hated it. As I got older, I still hated it, but I was falling into a bad crowd because I used to be really heavily into the 4chan stuff. And I mean really heavily into the 4chan stuff. And then all of a sudden, it was like mid 2011 or so, all these damn ponies started invading 4chan. I mean, there was pony thread after pony thread after pony thread after pony. It was insane. Like, it was just a flood of whatever, and I couldn't take it. I was like, what is all this gayness doing on here? Why is all this here? I hate this stuff. Get it off my website, you know. But, like, long story short, and like I said, if you want to see like how it really went down, you can watch the movie on my YouTube channel. But anyways, but long story short, one night I'm in a thread and I'm arguing with these bronies, and like at the time I was like, man, I'm not getting anywhere with these guys because every time I like put them down or I insult them, they just fight back. Oh, I'm gonna love and tolerate you. It's like, oh my god, could you be any more gay? But anyways, I got into an argument with these guys, and they're like, okay, well, just give this show a chance, and then, you know, go from there. So I was like, fine, I'll do it on one condition. If I don't like it, you get the hell off my website and go somewhere else. In the end, I ended up watching the first part, which was Friendship is Magic, two-parter. I watched the first one, and at the very end, when it said to be continued, I still wasn't fully into the show, and my immediate reaction was, God damn it, there's a second part to this fucking story. I'm gonna have to watch it. And so, but about halfway through the second episode, and I blame the two-parter for a lot of bronies, I really do, because the two-parter is just so well done that that's what hooks you. So, halfway through the second episode, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm actually starting to like this. And then I started questioning myself. I was like, what the fuck? But, so after that, I was like, okay. I never did go back to the 4chan thread, by the way. I just kind of kept to myself for the next few days and continued to watch in secrecy. And I'd say it was about, the first week of November 2012 is when I officially announced to the world that I have become a brony. And then I was just like, okay, what am I getting myself into? Am I going to be a target? Well, naturally I'm going to be a target because I know how the world works, and I also was one of the guys that used to bully bronies in a way, and yes, I was a bully, and I instantly regret everything I did, but it's in the past, and you can't change the past. But I can formally apologize for anyone that I may have hurt in the past, but that's a different story. Anyways, that about sums it up for me and my side of, like, whatever. So now my next question for you guys is, who are your favorite brony musicians and why? And before you answer, I want to, like, put you on a limit of 3 each. Because I know there's a lot of them, and we could go on and on and on forever, but I'm just going to limit it to your favorite 3 and why.
Okay. All right. You know what? Mine's going to be long, so I can go first on this one.
Well, I'm our co-host and friend here, Mond, is heavily in the music scene, so he's aware of a lot more musicians than I think me and Flutters are, even though I've studied more up on them recently. But I never was too heavy in the music scene. The art and the fix scene is more my area of favorite stuff to look at in the fandom. But in terms of musicians, I do have some favorites. One I really like that I think a lot of people don't know that should get to know is Delta Brony. And Delta Brony is a musician who does mainly instrumental stuff, but what he does is he's got his own unique style. He combines pony music, like from the songs of the show, and mixes them together with like video game themes or other stuff, and in like this kind of remix, kind of like a combination of the two. And usually he melds them together really well. And I was really impressed. He was actually the first Brony musician I met back when I was new to being a Brony on YouTube. And one of the we're all involved in this big pony group that we're no longer involved in. But one of the first videos I uploaded during one of those first streams that we did was a video from this guy, a song where he combined, I believe it was So Many Wonders and Rainbow Dash's part from At the Gala with, I believe it was 2 songs from a Sonic game, which are Sky Sanctuary and Lava Reach. But to make it short, I like the guy because he combines pony music with the video game themes. He's pretty awesome. You should check him out at Delta Brony on YouTube. My other 2 favorites, I would say, I really like Eurobeat Brony, or Odyssey as he's otherwise known. He doesn't make as much pony music now. He's moved on to other things, but you should really give his older stuff a listen, although I'm pretty sure everybody knows about his stuff by now because he's been around for a long time. But I love Eurobeat Brony's music. I love his stuff. And also, my third, if I had to pick a third favorite, this is kind of hard. I guess I'll go with DB Pony. I don't know. I like some of his songs. I like his style. He's kind of got this kind of fun, popish, kind of like alt rock kind of style that I like. I like his sound. I really love the song that he did, the duet song with Eiley Monty, Miles. I absolutely love that song. It's one of my all-time Brony song favorites. I absolutely love that song. So yeah, my 3 favorites I say would be Delta Brony, Eurobeat Brony, and DB Pony as my 3 favorite musicians.
Yeah, those guys they're good. I know who they are, most of them, but I have my own favorites. Mond, are you ready to go, or do you still need more time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so as Ed said, yeah, I'm really deep into the music scene because not only am I a co-host on here, I'm a co-host on Plug.dj, where the / Friendship is Magic, which is a Brony room on that site, Plug.dj. But anyway, so I hear that music, like all kinds of music from all over the fandom every day. But if I had to pick 3, I would first say my top first one is Taps, who he's not, you can't really put a genre on this guy because one, he makes anything from like dubstep to house to trap to like hip hop, sort of, like, because like with his most recent song, well, not his most recent song, but one of his more recent songs, Vampire Bats, which is based on bats from the season, he does like this hip hop sort of like beat to it, and like it's got like this hip hop feel to it. But the reason I like him is it's partly because of how he uses bass. Because like the bass that he uses is like really, really, really low, and it's really like, let's just put it this way: if you listen to one song, anybody listening, go on YouTube, look up a song named Adeen, which is spelled Ahdeen, and if you look that up and listen to it, the bass in that, if you have subwoofers, I recommend you turn them on, because the bass on this song is just like, it will make your house shake or it will make your ear shake. I'm not even kidding. But I just like, I love how he's so varied and so, he just has a lot of talent, I think. And he's remixed so many different songs from the show, like, and made a lot of original content. I mean, he's remixed Celestia's Ballad, it's Celestia's Ballad. But he's also done, just original songs of his own that are like marginally related to ponies. And honestly, like, as a person who's gone to some of his live streams, he's just a really nice guy to talk to. If I had to pick a second one, though, let's see. I'd say he's not really technically a musician, but I guess I'll group these 2 musicians together because they do collab a lot. Black Griffin and Basic. I like Black Griffin because, honestly, as a vocalist myself, like, he is someone I aspire to be like, because not only like from what I met from how, you know, like from what I experienced when I met him in person, he's not only a enormously nice guy, like just like a great guy to talk to. He's also like so talented. He's got, you know, a vocal range that I would kill for, and also like he's just amazing. But like he what do you call it? He's just his vocal range is great, and his vocal control is amazing too, just because like he can make, you know, things just sound amazing no matter what range he's singing in. Like he, with his collab with Michelle Creeber, the Thriller collab, he actually sounded like Michael Jackson. He actually really sounded like Michael Jackson. It was amazing to listen to that. But other than that, like Basic is his brother, so I kind of included the two as one entity. But yeah, Basic's, I mean, there's not a whole lot special about him, but he's just like, he's got this I would say he's like Taps. He's got a talent for sort of varying his style. He does anything from the one collab that he did with Black Griffin on for their album Immortal, which is Quest. Like that's a really like sort of it's more acoustical and it's more like trancey sort of. But they've done dubstep, they've done all sorts of things. So like I give a lot of credit to them, and that's something like that variance is something that I look for in a lot of artists. My third, I guess I would say let's see here. Probably you know what? I'm just gonna go with the third one that Ed said, DB Pony, because honestly, I kind of do like DB Pony to a pretty good extent, because he's got a nice style, and like not only, you know, he's, you know, not only does a lot of acoustic stuff, but he did the one collab with Prince Whatever, which was Wonderbolt, and that's still rock. It's still acoustic. It's not acoustical rock, but it's still rock. And I don't know. I just feel like he's got a lot of talent and he's going places. Plus, I don't know. I'm kind of biased because he's played a lot on Plug, so I don't know. I guess that's part of it too.
Yeah, I can see where you're both coming from, and I agree. Everyone that you mentioned, they are fantastic artists, and they do amazing work. There's no denying that. There are so many talented people within this community. That's why I said we had to put a limit on 3. My 3, I'm going to have to go old school, and I'm going to have to go classic here, because I'm going to stick with the first 3 I was introduced to, and that's DJ Alex S. Sadly, he's not making Brony music anymore. Wooden Toaster, and The Living Tombstone. Those were the first 3 I was introduced to upon joining that one group that I'm no longer associated with, but they're the ones that introduced me to it. They were the first ones I got into. I love their stuff. I used to play it all the time in my car when I still had it. Like, I'd be driving down the street just blaring Pony tunes, everyone looking at me, and I'd just be smiling and waving, "Hi, I'm crazy." I used to do that too. I used to just smile and wave, "Hi, I'm crazy, I know." then just like put my foot down on the pedal and just gone. Yeah, I'm a crazy person. But yeah, like those 3 I've mentioned, like their works, like DJ Alex S's Glitch remix is still one of the best remixes of the intro I've ever heard, next to the Equestria Girls, the official Equestria Girls remix. But his Glitch remix is absolutely incredible. And then Living Tombstones, I think it was Tombstone that did the remix of The Discord by Eurobeat, Brony. That was Tombstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, that was Tombstone.
So his mix, which sadly became the more popular one of the 2, that was excellent. And Wooden Toaster was Rainbow Factory, which is just an absolutely awesome song. I love putting that on and like blaring the bass because it just shakes the whole whole room.
And then
amazing.
he did Beyond Her Garden about
that one
probably the most remixed song in the community.
Yeah, I remember like when you go to the original, you just see a million annotations for all the different remixes. I'm like, holy crap, this is just remix after remix. I'm like, wow, what's like so popular, including to like one of the weirdest ones ever was like Beyond Her Smooth Criminal when they mixed the two together. I was just like,
that's amazing.
I was just like, wow, that's something else in this fandom. You never know what they're gonna do because they're pretty much capable of anything. But anyways, my next question for you guys, and again, I'm gonna put a limit on it, but who are your favorite Brony animators and why? And again, I'm going to put a limit on it of 3 just because there's a lot of them and we got to keep within a certain timeline to a point. So,
I would say I prefer Jan Animations over all of them because not only does he put out a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are still confused about that. It is a he. He still puts out a lot of stuff, and like with the Button pilot, the Adventures of Button Mash. They're making that one, what do you call it? The one thing about Sombra, that's coming out soon enough. And I think that's Jan Animations. If it's not, yeah. I mean, they're coming out with that one and I forgot exactly what it's called. It might be Fall of the Empire or something like that. But there's that, and like he puts out a lot of good content. I just, that's pretty much all I can say, and it's like show level content. Silly Philly Studios kind of comes next. I don't know. I haven't seen too much by them. Again, like I've only seen stuff like Luna's Cutie Mark, which I think was their first work, and then there's a few others. A few animatics and everything, but overall their stuff's not, I don't think their stuff's as good as Jan Animations, but it's a little bit more, it feels a little bit more less fluid than the Jan Animation stuff. But other than that, they're pretty good at it. And the other animator that I like, the third final one, is Animated James. And like the thing about him is he makes a lot of stuff that is just really comedic. Like he made, I think Stephen A.D.'s, like he put Stephen A.D.'s remix of Kokunero's Tropical Octave, and he made a video for that, like a PMV, a custom PMV. An animation. Yeah. And it was great. Like I love like all the visual humor in it and all that stuff. And he's made like stuff about, and Ed would probably know this because like he loves Sonic and everything. He made the Sonic like Amy versus Pinky and Sonic versus Rainbow Dash stuff. Mm-hmm. And overall, like it's more stylized than Jan Animations and Silly Philly. Wow. There we go. Silly Philly Studios, which they sort of more stick to the show's animation style and sort of the visual style, whereas Animated James has sort of more of like a Ed and Eddie cartoony style, and I like that. It's a nice little tweak that he has on that.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree on the first two. Like they are the best going. I know there are a lot of animators out there, and I don't want to put anyone down because, like, no matter what, like, if you do animation and it's, like, decent, like, all the credit to you guys because, again, there's so many of you out there that it's impossible for us to acknowledge you all, so that's why I'm just saying what I'm saying now. Ed, your thoughts?
I pretty much, I'm in tandem with Mond, I would say Jan Animation, Silly Philly Studios, and Animated James. I mean, like, I love Button Mash. That thing was just great. It's one of my all-time favorite animations from the fandom. I hope to see more of that in the future. I'm still waiting for, Adventures of Button 2. I hope it comes at some point. I know it takes a long time to animate, so, I mean, I don't want to rush Jan and everything. He does a great job, and we want quality, not quantity, so... but I love that. I love also Silly Philly Studios, Snowdrop and all that. I mean, it's just really wonderful animation, and the story was nice, and and yeah, Animated James, mainly for the MLP and Sonic versus stuff. I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, Sonic versus Rainbow Dash. I mean, like, yeah, some people may not like kind of like the gory element of it, but like I find the way that he does it is funny and adds to the humor, and I really enjoy that one. Personally, my favorite out of those, I love the Tails versus Twilight one the most because, like, Twilight is in it, and that's a huge plus. But also because I love the kind of like they turned like the Twilight and magic thing into like a religion versus science thing, and they made it was really normally that would be like you're treading on thin ice, but they made it like in a very hilarious thing, and like Tails. It's like all the science is like, yeah, well, you can't beat my technology, and Twilight's like, yeah, well, you can't beat my magic. That whole thing was hilarious. I loved that, and the Amy versus Pinky one was super hilarious too. So yeah, I mean, all three of them, Jan Animation, Silly Philly Studios, and Animated James are my top three favorites. But that doesn't mean that there aren't others I love as well. But like Flutter said, there's just so many of you out there, we can't mention all of you, but we love all of you animators out there in the fandom. We don't think of anybody better or superior to anyone else. These are just our personal favorites, and we love what you do, and we hope for more awesome videos and animations in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like you guys already said, and I'll just keep mine brief. Like, yeah, Jan Animation Studios and Silly Philly are like my two all-time favorite. I mean, I love the Don't Mind at Night. That's one of the best music video parodies I've ever seen. And then Picture Perfect Pony, I think they did that one too, which was like the first one that pretty much went viral when everyone saw it and was like, holy crap, like this is absolutely on par with the animation in the show. Mm-hmm. Silly Philly Studios, they do some good stuff. Like the one I comes to mind the most is Luna's Cutie Mark and Snowdrop. That was them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was both of those were them.
Okay. So I'm so confused here. There's so many of you guys. But yeah, like Luna's Cutie Mark is the one that I think that made me like them the most because it was just so well done, and like as much as I'm not a huge person on feels, that one came close to giving some feels because it was just so well done and well emotional. I hate using that word, but whatever. The third one for me, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who animated Double Rainbow. Do you guys remember who that was?
Oh, Flamingo Rich, yeah.
Yeah, Flamingo Rich. I gotta give him the number 3 spot because as much as like I know like Double Rainbow is it's split between the community on people that say it was really bad and say it was really good. Me personally, I liked it. I liked everything about it. So he's got to have the number 3 spot on my list just because that was so well done. And I don't even want to imagine how much time and effort had to go into that to produce such a good thing. Okay, so my next question for you guys is going to be, and we're coming up on the 45-minute mark here, but we can go a little overboard this week, but my next question for you guys is going to be, what are your thoughts about pony conventions, and have you been to any?
Okay, well, I have been to 2 so far, and technically I'm going to 2 again this year, but I mean, I'm going to 3 conventions this year, so, and one's not strictly a PonyCon, but whatever. I'll just throw it in there for the help, for what, for whatever's sake. I honestly, like, when I first was about to go to BronyCon last year, like, during the week before it, I was like, oh my god, this could be, like, such a disaster. Oh my god, like, it could be so bad and everything. And I felt really, like, nervous about it. But overall, after having gone to both BronyCon, which was the con that I went to, that I felt nervous about, and what do you call it? Canterlot Con. After going to those 2, I really felt sort of more, I guess, connected to the fandom as a whole, because you get to see everybody there. You really do. Like, you get to see the weird people, some of the weirder fans, like the ones that, like, I think at BronyCon when I was in line for ticket, or well, to get my badge, there were these 2 guys who were sort of like just I don't know, they were somehow like role playing or something, and they were like, one guy's like, Fluttershy is best pony. Let's like, and the other guy's like, how dare you? We must duel. And I'm like, oh, okay. But but like even then and then there was this one girl who sort of was like, oh, I'm a panelist here, and like I do voice acting and everything, and like I was like trying to be all nice and stuff, and like really try to listen to her. I mean, like, but honestly, it is kind of mean to say that they were weird, but they're a little bit eccentric, I should say, I guess. But
Yeah.
but the like you really just get to see a little bit of everybody. Like you get to see like I literally have so many stories that I can't even tell you them all. But like two of the main ones that I took away from that con were while like me and my best friend were walking, I think from like the vendor hall to another panel or something, we saw DB Pony just like strumming his guitar as he was walking. I mean, like it, you don't get much more like interconnected than that. And also, and my best friend was like ecstatic over this, but we saw Nicole Oliver kind of walking away from one of the panels, I think it was, or something like that, or she was going to the vendor hall. I don't exactly remember which case it was, but like my best friend, like I said, hey, Nicole Oliver at like 9:00, and he just waves to her, and she waves back and winks at him, and like I literally texted that to Ed here, and he's just like, oh. But yeah, I mean, like PonyCons. Yeah, you'll get your, disasters. Like I know one disastrous con was Pegasus Lost
Unicon.
Pegasus Unicon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unicon. And then there was like Canterlot Gardens, which was like kind of shady. But overall, like I like most of the ones that I've been to. I haven't been to one that was bad yet.
Yeah, I've only been to one con myself, which was Canterlot Con. I mean, I'd love to go to BronyCon, but it's held in the States, and due to a lot of reasons, I just can't get over to the States right now. I don't want to talk about that here because this is neither the time or place. Ed, your thoughts about conventions?
I gotta admit I am a little
Whoa.
jelly of Mon here. I gotta admit I am a little jelly of Mon here because he's gone to a lot more. He's gone to several more conventions than I have, and he's going to probably, as you heard him say, 3. Unfortunately with my line of work, working full time 6 days a week, I get the luxury of only going to one. But I figured since I'm only going to one, and I had this epiphany late 2012. It's like, wait a minute, if I budget this amount of money from November on to this date, I can make BronyCon. I can do this. And I actually went ahead and just spontaneously bought the tickets, and sure enough, I pulled it off. I went through a little bit of hardship, but I pulled up enough money, and I was able to make it to my first convention ever, let alone my first pony convention. And it's the biggest pony convention in the world, so hell of a start there, And I mean, I knew I was going to meet some friends, and that was actually the first place where I met Mond in person. And, like, I got to tell you, like, I was very nervous. Up until then, I had never met any bronies at all in person. I knew there was going to be a lot there. I was like, oh, my God. Like, if there's anything like videos I saw last year, I expected at least that much of a crowd. I was like, oh. Like, I've never met, this will be the first time I meet bronies in person and not just some random person on the other side of a computer texting something, because up until then, that's all I pretty much experienced, So I was nervous, but I was also very excited, probably more excited than nervous. So much so that the night before the con, I spent to the wee hours of the morning, like just blaring my surround sound with like 5 hours of pony music marathon, just trying to get myself pumped up. And, I don't know how I didn't wake up the neighbors or whoever, but I didn't. And like the next day, I go to the airport. And that's the first time I flew in I don't know how many years, so that in itself was an experience. And I remember getting to Baltimore about 5 o'clock, and when I get my room, after locking my key in my room 3 times because I was so nervous, yeah, that wasn't fun. I go to the line, and I see this line. It's like, where's the line to get pre-registration? It's like, oh, you go. I walked all the way down to the booth, and it's like, oh, you got to go all the way back down to the other side, wind yourself around. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? There must be like, I don't know, 5,000 people in this line. So 3 hours later, I finally get my badge. I go to. I'm so hungry. I hadn't eaten all day. I go to the restaurant next door. Next door to the Hilton, the Diamond Tavern. Great place, by the way. I recommend it. Good food. I went there. I'm in the middle of finishing my meal. I get a random text from Mom here. It's like, hey, we're here. Me and my friend are here. Why don't you come and meet us? It's like, are you in line? It's like, dude, I already got my ticket. I'm kind of eating dinner. It's like, oh, well, damn, that sucks. And then, like, I just remember finishing my food, like 5 minutes, I literally just stuffed it down my throat. It's like, waiter, cash now, gone, bye, you know. And I go running up there, and I was like, well, what do you guys look like? And they give me a description, but there were so many people there I couldn't find them. So it's like, I'll tell you what I'm wearing. I'm the big, like, Twilight Sparkle fanboy with, like, the purple shirt and, like all the Twilight Sparkle, like, merch and everything. And, like, apparently I must have stuck out like a sore thumb because Mom's friend's like, hey, is that you, Ed? And it's like, wait, at first I'm dumbstruck. Like, who are you? It's like, it's me. And it's like, Mom's friend, whatever. It's like, and then he introduced me to Mon, and the first thought I have seen Mon's like, wow, he's shorter than I thought he was. which was also Flutter's thought when he met him at the other con. But going back to that, you know, I had a great time at BronyCon. Like, it was amazing to see that. So many bronies there in person. I mean, I literally felt on top of the world. You know how they always say that Disney is the happiest place on earth? Well, I'm sorry, but that particular weekend, the happiest place on earth was BronyCon. That place was amazing. All the panels, like all the musicians. I mean, I got to see some celebrities in person. I must have seen Dusty Cat and Screwball walk around back and forth between my hotel and a place like 10 times. I saw Digi Brony Curious. I saw AC Race Best running from security or pretending to anyway.
That too.
You know, Saber Spark, Paleo Steno, Jax Blade, you know, Eileen Monty when she opened up for the opening ceremonies. You know, and then of course I got to see the VAs who were there, you know, Nicole Oliver, Kathy Westluck, Michelle Creever, Maddie Peters, Brenda Critchlow, and Lee Tokar, you know. And then I didn't realize this at the time, but now that I look back, I actually realize now, looking back, when I was leaving the vendor hall after I spent $450 on an awesome Twilight Sparkle plush, which I don't care, it's worth the money. I'm walking out, and I didn't realize it until now. I actually passed Kathy Westluck and Brenda Critchlow on their way to the vendor hall, and I didn't even notice or think twice about it. I didn't recognize it was them until I saw them at the VA panel later that day. It's like, oh my God, they were literally feet from me, and I didn't even say hi or anything. I didn't recognize who they were. It's like, oh, you know, so, you know, I mean, then later that night, the Brony Palooza was awesome. Got to see Michelle Creever and Black Griffin singing. You know, I love the one parody they did. Instead of Bab Seed, they sung Crab Seed. You know, if you've seen the video, that was hilarious because, you know, it's Baltimore, the whole crab thing. That was fun. And then like all the music, like I got to see Mike the Microphone on Saturday night, and Silverhound and Alex S and Eurobeat Brony and Living Tombstone. And I stayed up until the party ended at 2:30. I was so tired that night. I slept and I woke up on Sunday so tired, but I forced myself to go up so I could see the Comet panel with you know, Andy Price and Katie Cook and Heather Breckel, the people who were behind the MLP Comics and stuff. That was a great panel. So, I mean, yeah, I got to see VAs, the comic people, fan contributors, you know, musicians, the whole 9 yards, right? It was an incredibly amazing experience. I had a ton of fun. I highly recommend it if you've never been to PonyCon. If you want to fully experience the fandom for yourself, you must go to at least one con while this whole pony thing is still going. And if you can, go to BronyCon. I highly recommend it. You're going to have a blast. I went there last year. I'm going there again this year, and I'm going to be more prepared this year than I was last year. Hopefully, a little bit bigger budget to buy more awesome merch. And I got to tell you, it's an awesome con, and I had a great time. And I made history. I mean, I was one of 8,407 bronies there. So we broke a record for the biggest attendance ever at a pony convention. And they're probably going to do it again this year with over 10,000. So this year, instead of chanting fun, and, you know, pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbow, everybody's gonna be chanting over 9,000 bronies, yeah, or something like that. So I'm looking forward to that. So BronyCon's awesome. You should totally go, and yeah, awesome experience.
Again, I'm totally jealous that you get to go. Both of you get to go again. You lucky bastards. But as for me, I've only been to one, and like I said, that was CanterlotCon, and things starting off with that con weren't exactly like promising. There was a lot of management problems, and there was even a point in time where I almost thought, and this is a very terrible thing, but I almost thought it was going to be the next Unicon. I thought that when I actually got there was going to be like no convention itself. It was just going to be like a complete and utter disaster. Thankfully, this wasn't the case, and at the very last, like, month or two, they finally got somebody who was competent enough to put it all together and actually make it happen. For a smaller con and my first con, like overall it started off a little slow. It was whatever, but then in the end I ended up like convincing Mon to come over, and that was the first time I got to meet him in person. That short bastard that he is. But sorry, Mon, I have to. It's just
It's alright.
I wouldn't be me if I didn't. Because seriously, when I first saw you, my first thoughts was, holy crap, boy, I'm going to have to boot you in the ass so you grow taller. But overall, like, it ended up being like an absolutely fun time. I mean, we got to talk with Black Griffin. He's an amazing guy. We got to hang out with, well, I briefly spoke to Jesse Nowak, or No Whacking. Sorry, I can't help it. I can't help but giggle at her name. I know I'm very immature, but I think the two things that stick out the most in my mind, well, actually, I'll narrow it down to three. The three things that stick out the most and that I remember the most is A, I got to meet Mond in person for the very first time, and that was awesome because Mond, you are a really awesome guy, as short as you are, and two. We got to see like 75% of Ponies the Anthology 3 at that convention, which was freaking awesome. And the third and final thing was I had made a custom Apple Bloom poster because I found out Michelle Krieber was going to be there. And it blew her away so much that the personalized autograph I got on it was absolutely amazing. In fact, I have the poster hanging up on my wall right now, and it's truly amazing. I mean, you know what it looks like, Mon. You were there.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. Holy crap, we're coming up on almost the hour mark here, so we better get things rolling. Okay, so the next thing I want to get into is slightly mature content. So for our viewers at Alicorn Radio and our viewers on YouTube, because eventually this will be uploaded to YouTube, the next part of what we're going to get into is slightly mature content. So if you're not a huge fan of mature content, this would be the time where you want to tune out.
If there are children in the room, please get them out.
Okay, so let's start off with this. What are your thoughts about MLP porn and clopping?
Well, Ed could go first on this one.
Oh, dear. This is the part that I think we've all semi-dreaded talking about, but we do talk about everything in the fandom here, so this is no exception. This is a very obviously sensitive and polarizing issue, a very polarizing issue in the fandom for understandable reasons, you know. I mean, you know, in every fandom, you know, porn, R34 is this. Doesn't matter if you're in the furry fandom, in the Sonic fandom, in the anime fandom, you know, there's the hentai. It is this everywhere, and Ponies is no exception. And, like, you know, we all know we have amazing artists in this fandom for safe work and not for safe, you know, stuff. But it doesn't take away that it's art. Whether you like it or not, it's subjective. It depends on the person, you know. And Ponies is no exception to R34. You know, like, I think I'm okay with. I'm really okay with you know, just the pony porn and whatever and all that because, and I'll tell you why. Every fandom has a different age groups, and bronies, especially, you know, there are some people who are going to be okay with that stuff, you know, and we have to respect that. You cannot say, oh, well, this fandom is based on a show that was originated for little girls, so you're not allowed to have artistic integrity and freedom to do your own interpretation of a character because it's mature. You know, stuff like trying to take down molestia and other stuff like that. That stuff is censorship, and it's wrong. I mean, I never followed that blog, so I don't care as much. I care on the part of the principle that they're censoring stuff and taking stuff down, and that's wrong. If you don't like it, you don't have to look at it, but don't deny the opportunity for somebody else who may enjoy that kind of thing, you know. But getting back to the whole clop thing and whatever, you know, if you clop, that's your business. I'm not going to judge you because of that. That's your deal. You know, like there is some great art, safe and not safe, and even in not safe work, there is some really good, high quality, highly detailed, you know, suggestive material out there. There's no denying that. I'm not going to deny it. I've seen some myself. You know, like what? Like some of it is really good, like especially some of the anthro stuff. You know, and I'll admit it. I like some of that stuff. So what? I mean, are you going to come over and like gang up on me, like the good side of, or the purest side of the fandom is like, oh, this guy likes this stuff, let's beat him to a pulp, he doesn't belong in our fandom. That kind of behavior is immature, and it really goes against the whole mantra of what this fandom is supposed to stand on, which is of course love and tolerate and accept people for who they are and their differences, even if you don't agree with them, and you don't have to, but let them be. They're not doing anything to you by clothing. They're not doing anything to you by liking this kind of art. And yeah, I'll even go as far to say some of that art, that NSFW stuff, is actually kind of hot. I don't care if you think it's... I don't care. I'm going to be honest about it. The same way that a lot of people think hentai is hot, and by the way, I am a fan of that too, and that's just more accepted in society because more people know about it and more people like it. And the more people like something, the more acceptable it slowly becomes. So I think there's really a double standard, whereas hentai is okay no matter what age is supposedly being depicted. But when it comes to stuff about anthropomorphic animals or furries or whatever, then people think you're disgusting and you're a criminal and a deviant. And it's completely different if somebody finds something attractive or enjoys a piece of art based on a fictional character, okay? Or based on a OC or whatever. Doesn't mean that person doesn't mean that person is into bestiality or any other disgusting thing that some people do. There are weird people out there who do like that and happen to also like that kind of art. But the majority of them aren't. Majority of them are normal people who just happen to like that stuff, And judging them and outcasting them isn't the way to treat people in this fandom. If you don't like R34, I respect that. But on the other hand, on the other token, guys who do like R34, I gotta also be frank with you. Don't go around to cons or public places and say, "Hey, I am a clopper. Oh, I love Ponyport, or I like R34. Isn't that cool?" Obviously, use your common sense. You don't talk about that stuff in public. You only talk about that stuff when you're really good friends with people who either are into it too, or at least respect you for liking it, even if they don't agree. That's not something you just announce on the microphone or whatever. Say, whatever. Common sense, folks. Be courteous to other people in this fandom, because there's 50% who are okay with R34 and 50% who aren't. And be especially sensitive to the kids, because this is primarily targeted for little girls or just for kids in general. So if you're in a con or whatever, please, for the love of Celestia, folks, don't talk about this stuff in front of kids. Don't talk about this in public where anybody can hear you. It's a sensitive personal issue. If you clop, whatever, more power to you. Do it in the privacy of your home or wherever. Just common sense like that, But personally, I don't have a problem with the fact that it's this. Every fandom has it. You got to put up with it whether you like it or not. It's not going to go away because you're complaining about it and bitching about it in forums and starting flame wars and you want to take stuff down like Molestia. For every one you take down, 10 more are going to pop up somewhere else. You can't get rid of it. So, I don't see anything wrong or immoral about it. They're fictional characters. Some of them aren't even in the show. They're OCs. And if somebody thinks it's attractive or whatever, fine. Whatever. Don't make a big deal out of it. And that's my view on it. I like some of it, not all of it. Some of it I find distasteful. And some other person may think it's amazing. And I may think, ugh, and vice versa. So that's just the way it is. Respect it. Use common sense when you talk about it. And just, doesn't make you any less of a brony or more of a brony if you're a clopper or you aren't one. It exists. It's there. Some people like it. Some people don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Mond, what is your thoughts?
I used to be on the other side of that argument, but after about a year and a half in the fandom, I'm like, you know what? I'm being really stupid about this. I'm being a purist, and I don't like the fact that I'm being a purist because honestly, nothing that is artistic is ever really always pure. There's always some sort of, I would say, muddiness to it. There's always some, okay, let me put a little caveat to that. There's some stuff that's really pure, but usually when we're talking about art that is pure and that it has no sort of muddiness or dirtiness or sort of risqueness or it doesn't push any boundaries, that usually isn't good art. And when I started I'll admit it, I do look at some of it, and I don't look at all of it, but I do look at some of it. But the thing is, Ed's right. Some of it is some of it is really distasteful, but some of it is really good, like, and really well, like, drawn, and the technique that some of the clop artists have, and, you know, the NSFW artists have in this community is really, really good. I mean, like, he's a, you know, there's one artist, John Hosenko, or Josenko, whatever, however you pronounce it. You know, he has safer work stuff, but he also has NSFW, yeah, NSFW stuff. But, like, I mean, you know, people tried, and someone actually did get his blog, you know, Ask Princess Molestia taken down, but, and like Ed said, I was really mad at that, not because I looked at the blog so much as the principle behind what the DWMers stood for. But I mean, like I'm gonna, like Ed said, I, like, honestly, now I sort of have the same attitude that Ed has. You know, every fandom, every sort of thing that's out there has some sort of erotic subset to it. There's, like, you know, as much as we hate, you know, some people hate it, there's porn of, like, Arthur, you know, from the PBS channel, and there's porn of, like, probably Clifford the, you know, the big red dog or something like that. I mean, there are some people that are into that, and, like, you know, as much as I think, like, oh, why would you like that? You know, I always just think, you know, yeah, they like something that's a little weird, but I'm not gonna, you know, down them for it. I'm not gonna put them down and say that they're, you know, freaks for it, because that's just, it just doesn't seem right. Because, like, if you have real empathy for someone, you sort of put them in your own shoes, and, like, or you put yourself in their shoes, I should say, not, you know, what I just said, but you know, you put yourself in their shoes, and you try to think, well, you know, what's sort of you know, bad about this, what's good about it. You know, you try to, you know, parse through what that person probably, you know, sees in it. And that doesn't mean, you know, you see, you know, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to like it or anything else like that. Like, you don't have to actually go and say, oh, you know, I'm into that stuff, but yeah, you can at least, like, tolerate it and just say, like, yeah, that's another subset of our fandom. You know, what, you know, I don't necessarily like it, but there are people who do, and I respect that.
Yeah.
I guess that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with, like, what you guys have just said. I mean, as a person who has, for years and years and years, collected cartoon erotica of, like, many different things, it was only natural that eventually I'd probably start seeing the pony stuff and get into it. In fact, yeah, as stated, I'm not gonna hide anything here. Yes, I've seen some of it. I've seen a lot of it, but I mean, I don't care what people think. Like, but at first, like, when I first got into it, I was thinking, you know, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, like, my major complaint is that that's the side of the fandom that kept getting in the mainstream news, which gave us all a really bad image in, like, the public eye, because this is what they're focusing on, as, like, most things do in the news. You know, they always focus on whatever. I mean, we've come a long way over the years from, like, when it first started. It's starting to become more, bronies are starting to become more accepted. I mean, not totally, but, like, it's becoming more of a mainstream thing. So, but, like, yeah, I mean, again, as you guys said, like, if you guys are, if people out there are into this kind of stuff, that's perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and, like, don't feel ashamed of it. But, like Ed said, and like Mon said, if you're gonna be into that stuff, please just have the decency to keep it amongst yourself. And, like, with your very, like, people that you know are also into it, and, like, your close friends and whatever. And please don't, like, advertise it in public, and don't talk about this stuff in front of children, because it's not right on so many levels, because it's just not right. Okay, now that we've covered that, let's get into this. What are your thoughts about grimdark and gore art and fanfics?
Well, as far as grimdark and gore goes, and like I don't, it's weird. I'm a writer, but I don't read fanfics. Anyway, I think as far as like art goes with grimdark and like animations, some of them are okay. Like Mr. Davy manages to pull that off pretty well, actually, because like with Cupcakes HD and Smile HD, they're really gory, but like at the same time, how he just juxtaposes the music and everything, and how much visual humor is in there. I would just say like he does it well, but like there are things like if you actually read the original Cupcakes fic, which I think I've done once, and I was like, wow, this is just not well written. Yeah, I know people are gonna hate me for that, but like I just didn't think it was all that well written. It just seemed overly like gory, and it just, I don't know. I didn't like it, but like as a whole, I guess I don't really like grimdark or gore that much, but honestly, like it's just like the same thing with the R34 stuff. Like I say, hey, you know what? Like as long as you're not going out and hurting people because of this, just, you know, keep it to yourself, but you can enjoy it, you know, whatever. You can consume it in whatever way you want, you know, as long as you know, you're not doing any harm to anybody else because of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's my take on it. I don't especially like it, but you know, hey, as someone on a news show that I watch says, have at it, Hoss.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not really into it myself. I have read the original Cupcakes, and I read the original Rainbow Factory, and I was just, I wasn't really like overly grossed out about it because it was simply just gore for the sake of being gore, and it was kind of disturbing, but at the same time mildly amusing. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that stuff, but at the same time, it's just like, wow, you've created like the most. It's the thing that comes to mind is like, have you guys ever seen that South Park episode where the boys write like the most disturbing thing ever, and it becomes like a huge thing? I think it was like called the poo that took a pee or something, and it ended up. It ended up like becoming this really huge thing. That's pretty much like what happened with Rainbow Factory and Cupcakes. It ended up becoming this really huge thing that was just disturbing for the sake of being disturbing, which was also mildly amusing. Ed, what are your thoughts about this subject, my boy?
Well, the thing is, you know, I can definitely sympathize a lot more, and I definitely appreciate a lot more some of the R34 stuff, but when it comes to grimdark, no. I'm sorry. I mean, like, again, if you like that, fine. I got nothing against you, but I personally just never was into that stuff. Like, I don't like ponies being chopped up into pieces or like extremely gory stuff. This show, a lot of its appeal is because they're cute and they're charming and whatever. I mean, this is not what is that one show about the wild animals always being killed or something? I
know what you're talking about. I can't even remember the name of it.
I can't remember
It's like Treehouse Friends or something.
Happy Treehouse Friends, something like that. Yeah, this is not that show, you know. And so when I see my beloved characters even though they're fixed, and most of the time, and I refuse to watch Smiley Steve. I don't like that. I'm not a sensitive person to violence. Believe you me, I've seen anime where people have been beheaded and killed. I mean, hell, there was one scene in Dragon Ball Z where somebody got cut in half. Doesn't bother me, that stuff. When it comes to ponies, no, I don't want to see them get hurt like that. You know, I don't find it funny. I don't find it amusing. I'm not really, and it doesn't help that I'm not goth or emo either, because some of those folks tend to like that stuff. You know, I don't like it. I'm okay with slapstick violence. You know, I'm okay with like an occasional, you know, cut or bruise or maybe a little bit of blood, but not something super gory or whatever. I've never read Cupcakes. I've never read Rainbow Factory. I never will. And I'm never going to watch Smiley Steve. It's not my thing. If you like it, that's good for you. I'm not going to watch it no matter what you try to get me to do. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to read that stuff. Not my thing. But, you know, like the R34 stuff. You know, if you like it, fine. But when you talk about it, be sensitive if there's kids around. And understand have common courtesy. Not everybody in the fandom likes that. That's another thing that I think maybe 50% like and 50% don't. Maybe a little bit different than that. But it is a divisive thing also. Fandom, and not everybody likes it, which is why there are filters for that kind of material on all the different sites, just like there are filters for R34 stuff.
As
so
well there should be.
Yeah, as well there should be, exactly. Because of the exact reason I was saying is that not everybody's into it, and some people are too young to be looking at that stuff also. So, not my thing, but, it's around. I have nothing against it. Just not something I'm into.
Yeah, again, like, I completely agree with both of you here. And, like, holy crap, we're pushing the hour and 15 mark here. But, I'm out of questions, so, let's end the show with this. There's been a lot of drama throughout the Brony community over the years. Let's discuss some of the things that have happened, why we think they've happened, and what could have been done to prevent things from happening. So, who wants to start off here?
I'll start, because, yeah, that's, the thing is, coming from a guy who used to, like, love the fandom, and used to, like, sort of cherish all the fandom's sort of little quirks and everything, I've become really disillusioned just because of the useless drama that's gone on. Like, I remember the first time I was disillusioned about the whole entire fandom was the Derpy controversy back in season 2 when, there was, I don't even know who started it. People blame this, deviant art person named Yamino, but I don't even think it was her that necessarily started it. But yeah, like, I just saw like a bunch of people getting all worked up over it, all saying like, "Oh, she got a voice. That's so stupid." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, you guys should be grateful. We did that. Like, that's our thing. And they're like, no, I'm gonna be a spoiled child about it. And like, and I'm just like, and then like when all the stuff with Twi'lek and what else, like Down with Molestia, that just disappointed me when I saw that. And then like the Equestria Girls drama and all that stuff, and now the drama with like people saying like, oh well, Twilight's a princess, why isn't she acting like one? I'm just like, oh my god, shut up. Great, you can have your opinion and everything, but if you're gonna be obnoxious about like not have a good thing to say about the show and just be all like dramatic and drama queen about it, like, just please don't talk. Like, don't, like, I mean, I hate to say that, but just, it's like, ugh. It's just like, it's so annoying. But I mean, like, yeah, I accept that it's gonna happen no matter what. But I mean, I'm not as like optimistic about the fandom because of it. Just because of all the drama that happened. I thought, like, when coming into the fandom that I was going to be, away from that, but I guess that was a little bit too optimistic then.
Yeah. And like it was just mentioned in the chat, like the stream chat, like there's going to be drama in all fandoms. So I expected it when I came into it, but there's been a lot more drama than I thought there would ever be. And like you brought up a really good, like two really good ones. Like when they gave Derpy a voice, and then people started freaking out about that. I was like, oh my god! Like it's like, you guys want them to cater to us, but at the same time, when they do, you complain about it. It's like, I mean, put it this way, Hasbro's in a losing situation right now because they can't please everyone, but it's like when they try to please certain people, other people are like, no, you can't do that, and like then all of a sudden you start hearing stories that like there are, and to those that do this, I am like ashamed that you guys are even in the fandom, but the people that go as far to start uttering death threats to writers and Hasbro themselves, like, what is your problem? It is a kids show. Chill out. Like, it's not going to be absolutely perfect all the time because, again, it is a kids show, and that's something that a lot of bronies have to understand. It is still a kids show, even though it appeals to us for reasons that we all have our own reasons as to why it appeals to us, but it's a kid's show. And then the other thing, well, like you said, the Twi'lek thing. Now, in the past, like I've said, I'm still not overly thrilled about that myself. I think they pushed it, like, I'm okay with her being one, but I still say they rushed it too early. But again, I wasn't participating in all the show is going to be ruined, and like it's the end of the world, and like this would never happen if Lauren Faust was still here, and blah 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 blah. Like, it's ridiculous. There's no need for that, but for whatever reason, it happens, and it's just something that we have to deal with. I mean, as much as we all say it's not a great thing. Ed, what are your thoughts, man?
Oh man, I've got a lot to say, so please bear with me all. But I give you fair warning if I get a little upset about this, and there's reason. I'm just very passionate about it. Look, starting with the derpy thing, exactly what you two have said. This was a shout out to the Brony fandom from the staff, DHX and Hasbro. It's like saying, "Hey, we hear you. We know you love derpy. We're going to give her a role to talk." And then this happens. Like, people have loved her since season 1, and then she finally gets a speaking role. She finally gets a speaking role in season 2 and last roundup. And like, there were people who loved it and like it stole the show, which was supposed to be an Applejack episode, by the way, but nobody remembers that. Unfortunately, but like a lot of people loved it, but then there were some people who were complaining, "Hey, she sounds." And forgive my use of the word, but I'm only using it because it's what people were, to explain it. But she sounds retarded. They're making fun of a handicapped person. This is offensive. We're gonna complain to Hasbro and say, no, you can't do this. And as far as I know, it was like a handful of parents who complained, and Hasbro overreacted and completely redid the scene with, I think it was Tabitha St. Germain who revoiced it, and it didn't sound anything like she originally sounded, and it ruined the appeal of that episode. It really did. Yeah. Because I found it really fun, and I laughed at that scene. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, she's talking, this is hilarious. And then when I found out the whole thing, I was a little bit disillusioned myself. And then, like, what, you want to say something, Flutters?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I apologize, people, for, like, the quality issues in the call we seem to be having. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, but Ed's kind of digitizing a bit, and I can't figure it out. But anyways, you can continue.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it's on my end or not. We'll look into that at some point. But back what I was saying, going into the Twilight Corn thing, like, that was done primarily to sell new toys for the show. And we all know this show is mainly targeted for little girls, and it's a toy show. It's basically a giant toy commercial. It just happens to be a very good, high-quality toy commercial that appeals to people of both genders and all ages. And we love it, and we're passionate about it. And even Lauren Faust, before she left, stated in a book I had, it's called The Elements of Harmony Guidebook. It's a look behind the show. She said, and if you don't believe me, you can look it up there. She said that originally her ultimate goal for Twilight is that she would replace Celestia and become a princess. But I agree with Flutters. It was rushed. It happened a little bit too early. However, it happened. We have to accept it. What we got in Magical Mystery Cure, they did a hell of a job when they only had like 22 minutes to work for. They summarized a bunch of events into a small amount of time by using multiple songs, which I thought was a brilliant idea to do. I love that episode, and it's in fact my #1 favorite episode of the entire show because of the songs in that show, because Twilight's my favorite pony, and because there was so much emotion and feels in the episode. I love it to this day, especially that one scene with Twilight and Celestia and all the flashback scenes. And then the Equestria Girls thing. I admit, I was uncomfortable at first about it. I thought it was going to be like maybe a bad move, but it turned out to be better than I expected, and I enjoyed it in the end. And they did that because Hasbro saw all of the humanized main six art and thought that's what we collectively, as the fandom, wanted. Plus, they saw it as an opportunity to compete with Mattel for Monster High, which is another story. So, and it turned out to be a good movie. Now we're getting the Equestria Girls 2. Yeah, I'd rather see a pony movie in theaters, but I'm going to accept what we get and be grateful for it, and maybe eventually on the road we will get a pony movie. And I want to close by saying, the stuff that's happened recently with Michael Moronis and the 11-year-old boy who in North Carolina who attempted to commit suicide because he was bullied at school, and don't quote me on this, but I think his own brother at one point, and he got to the point where he just felt like he didn't want to live anymore. Thankfully, he survived. Mm-hmm. He survived, and last time I checked about 2 weeks ago, he's getting better every day, and he's like getting more hours of therapy, and he's breathing on his own. Yeah. So he is recuperating slowly, which is great. Yeah. But that thing, that's unacceptable. And then the thing that happened recently with Grayson and the Rainbow Dash backpack. Yeah. Come on, folks. You're punishing the victim instead of the bullies. We need to work on society of fixing that issue. That's not right, and I was really upset about it. So things like that. I'm still happy to be a Brony. I still like to be optimistic. When I went to BronyCon, I saw how great the fandom can be. So, like, I'm still optimistic, maybe more so than Mon about the fandom. I think we can pull through this. We're strong. We've been through controversies and we still survive. So, I want to be optimistic about it. I don't like some of the things that happen, but overall, I'm so happy to be a Brony. I don't care what Howard Stern says or anybody else says, you know. So, like, we'll see what happens in the future, and I think we can still make this. We can still pull through this, and I still think overall we're one of the best fandoms out there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, Bronies is just one of, like, I've been a fan of, like, a lot of things, and I've been in several different fandoms over the years, but I have to say, without, like, absolute of a doubt, being a part of the Brony fandom is definitely one of the best fandoms I've been in a long time. But, anyways, I think it's time for us to call it a wrap, because we are pushing the hour-and-a-half mark now.
Mhm.
So, great show, guys, and like, thank you to all of our viewers on Alicorn Radio, and thanks again to Alicorn Radio for allowing us to broadcast here. We look forward to doing more shows here next week. And speaking of next week, we will be back again for the 4th episode next week, Sunday at 11. EST, and next week we're going to cover the swag and a few other things. So join us again next week, and thank you.